Hello everyone, welcome to lecture 19. In this lecture we will continue our discussion regarding the practical constructions of block ciphers, and the roadmap of this lecture is as follows. We will see that how using SPN and Fistel network we can design a highly popular block ciphers which we call as DES. We will also discuss some of the pitfalls of DES and how those pitfalls led to the motivated the construction of another popular block cipher called triple DES, and we will see a very high level overview of AES. Before I further continue, I would like to stress here that why we are calling it as why we are during all this discussion I am continuously using the term practical constructions of block ciphers, right, because that is the way we instantiate our pseudo random functions, pseudo random permutations and strong pseudo random permutations in reality, right. However, it turns out that we do not have any provable security guarantees for DES, triple DES, AES. It is only that ever since their discovery no practical flaw has been identified or any security breach has been identified, and that is why we believe that DES, triple DES, AES they behave like pseudo random permutation and strong pseudo random permutations. Whereas, the constructions of pseudo random permutations and pseudo random functions based on one way functions that we had seen in some of our earlier lectures, they are provably secure, because we have a mathematical security proof that indeed they satisfies the definitions of pseudo random functions, pseudo random permutations. But the reason I call those constructions as theoretical constructions is that even though their efficiency, their running time, everything is polynomial in the underlying security parameters, the underlying polynomials are so huge that we cannot afford them to use in practice. Whereas, the constructions, the practical constructions that we are going to discuss in this lecture based on SPN, Fistel network, they are highly efficient, but the downside is that you do not have any mathematical guarantee, you just have heuristic security guarantee, namely ever since their discovery no security breaches have been identified, and that is why we can safely use them to instantiate any cryptographic primitive where you want to instantiate pseudo random functions, pseudo random permutations and so on, right. So, let us start our discussion here. So, we start the discussion with respect to data encryption standard or DES, and it was designed by IBM with the help of NSA in 1970, adopted as a standard by the United States in 1977, and the original form of DES operates with a key of size 56 bits, and that is why it is no longer considered to be secure, because the original form of the DES is susceptible to a brute force attack. Namely, if an adversary is given an x comma y pairs or several x comma y pairs where y is the value of DES with respect to an unknown 56 bit key and the input x, where the x input is known to the adversary, then just by doing computations of order 2 to the power 56, adversary can recover back the key, right. So, that is why the security of the original proposal of the DES was strengthened, and that is how we obtained the new construction which we call as triple DES, which we will also discuss in this lecture, and it has larger key size. And this DES, it has got great historical importance because it is one of the best studied cryptographic algorithms, and even though this original form of DES is susceptible to brute force attack, it is vulnerable to the brute force attack, it does not mean that it has any serious design flaw. Namely, ever since 1970 no security flaw has been reported in the architecture or the design of the DES. The only complaint is that it operates with a small size key, that is all. And in this lecture we are going to discuss only the high level ideas of the algorithm. These are not the exact details, and the discussion that we are going to have in this lecture is not good for implementation purpose. If you are interested in implementing DES, if you want to implement DES, you should consult some of the relevant sources which are given in the textbook by Katz and Lindell, right. So, the DES architecture is as follows. Basically, it is a 16 round Fistel network mapping 64 bit input to 64 bit outputs, right. And the key for the Fistel network is of 56 bits, and there will be a publicly known key scheduling algorithm based on which we will be determining 48 bit round key for each of the individual iterations. So, each of these individual iterations is going to use a subset of 48 bits from the master key of size for 56 bits, and the scheduling of which subset of which 48 bit subset of the master key I am going to use for each iteration will be publicly known. Now, let us focus on the individual round functions, right. So, remember, as per the description of the Fistel network, the round functions could be any arbitrary round function, it need not be invertible. So, if I focus on the ith round function, which takes a key of size 48 bits, right, and a right half of the current x input of 32 bits. Why 32 bits? Because remember, as per the architecture of the Fistel network, each x input or each intermediate output will be passed as a collection of left part and a right part, where the left part will be of 32 bits and the right part will be 32 bits. So, that is why my individual round function will be a keyed function with a 48 bit key and a 32 bit input. And it turns out that the round function is nothing but a 1 round SPN, and that is why you can interpret DES to be a kind of keyed permutation obtained by composing both an R round SPN or 1 round SPN and R round Fistel network, where R is 16. So, in some sense we are actually trying to get best of the both primitives here, right. So, this is the architecture of your DES round function, where you have a key mixing step, you have a substitution step, and you have a mixing step. So, now let us go a little bit deeper into the description of the DES round function. So, imagine this is the ith round function. So, it will take a sub key k I determined by a publicly known key scheduling algorithm of size 48 bits, and it will take a blocks input, namely the R part with respect to the Fistel network, whose size is 32 bits, right. So, in SPN the first step is the key mixing step, and in the key mixing step we actually perform the XOR of the sub key with the block input. But if you see, the block input is of size 32 bits and the key size is 48 bits. So, we have an incompatibility to perform the XOR operation. So, that is why we perform an expansion function here, which will be publicly known, and what this expansion function does is it basically duplicates half of the bits of the block input, namely the 32 bit R input, some of the 16 bits of the R inputs, they are duplicated to obtain a 48 bit input, which is now used to do the key mixing step here. Now, once we do the key mixing, we parse the intermediate output into collection of 8 pieces of 6 bits each, and each of those individual 6 bits go through an S box. Now, the interesting aspect here is that unlike the SPN, where we require each of the S box to be a permutation or to be a 1 to 1 onto mapping, the S boxes here, they are not invertible, because the inputs of the S boxes are 6 bits, whereas the outputs of the S boxes are 4 bits. But it suffices to have S boxes like this, because remember, this 1 round SPN is going to serve as the round function for a Fistel network, and for the Fistel network we do not require the round functions to be invertible. So, even though these S boxes are not invertible, it is fine, right. So, once we obtain the output of the key mixing steps, we parse it into 8 pieces of 6 bits each, make each of the individual pieces of 6 bits go through the respective S boxes and obtain a 32 bit output, and then we apply the mixing permutation, which will be publicly known, to obtain the output of the ith round function. So, that is the internal description of your ith round function of the DES. And the S boxes and the mixing permutations that are used in each of the round functions of the Fistel network inside DES, they have very special properties, right. And those special properties we are going to discuss very soon. What I want to stress here is that the S boxes and the mixing permutations that are used here, they are so carefully designed that even a minor modification can lead to severe security vulnerabilities. Now, let us see how exactly these S boxes in the context of DES look like. So, for your reference, I am taking the first S box and I am taking the description of this first S box from Wikipedia. So, each S box you can imagine here as a 4 cross 16 lookup table, and each entry in the table consists of a 4 bit string, because remember the output of an S box is a 4 bit output, and each row in the table is a permutation of the set 0 to 15. So, you can see here in each of the 4 rows you have the values 0 to 15 occurring exactly once, but arranged in some arbitrary order, arbitrarily looking order. And since each of the strings 0 to 15 can be represented by 4 bits, that is why I am saying that each entry in this table basically consists of 4 bits. Now, how exactly we are going to access this lookup table? So, remember the input for the S box is a 6 bit input. So, the input 6 bits of the S box determine the entry that we are going to look for in this lookup table, and how exactly we pass the 6 input bits. So, the first and the last bit of the inputs of the S box, they determine your row number. So, that is why you can see along the rows I am just focusing on the first bit and the last bit, the middle 4 bits I am not focusing, whereas the middle 4 bits they are used to access a particular column number. So, that is why along the columns it is the middle 4 bits which are highlighted, and that is why we have 16 possible columns. Now, the way the numbers 0 to 15 are arranged in this S box is to ensure that if you change the input of the S box by 1 bit, then it should result in the change of at least 2 output bits of the S box. So, what I am trying to say is, for instance, suppose if you call this S box S1 on the input say 0 1 1 1 1 0, and if you want to invoke this S box on another input where the input is almost the same as the previous input, except that the last bit is different. That means, you now have 2 inputs here which differs exactly in 1 bits, and we want to ensure that the output of the first S box on these 2 different inputs which differ in exactly 1 bit should result in an output which differs in at least 2 bits. So, let us see whether it is ensured or not. So, let us first try to see what exactly will be the value of the first S box on the input 0 1 1 1 1 0. So, since 0 and 0 are used for row number, that means we want to have the first row, and then we will have to go for column number 1 1 1 1. So, namely we come to this entry, that means the value of the first S box on this input is going to give you the value 7, and 7 if I write in binary it is 0 1 1 1. And now, let us see what will be the value of this first S box on the input 0 all ones followed 0 followed by all ones. So, let us see how exactly we will go. So, the first bit and the last bit are used for accessing the row, that means we have to go to the second row, and then we have to go to the column number accessed by the middle 4 bits which is all ones. So, that means this will go to this entry, that means the value of the first S box on this input will be 8, and if I write 8 in binary, then this will be the output. And now, you can see that indeed the output of the first S box on these 2 inputs differ in at least 2 output bits. In fact, it differs in the first bit, it differs in the second bit, it differs in the third bit, and in fact, it differs in the fourth bit. So, actually we required the outputs to differ in only 2 bits, but the way the things are arranged in this first S box, it ensures that the S box output on these 2 different inputs differ in all the output bits. So, now it is easy to see that due to the above properties, each S box defines a 4 to 1 function, and why it defines a 4 to 1 function is because you have 6 possible you have inputs of 6 bits and you have an output of 4 bits. So, that means there will be 4 inputs mapping to the same output. So, the DES expansion function and the mixing permutation, they also have some important properties here. So, we already discussed the properties that we require from the S box. Basically, they ensure that if there is a change of 1 bit of input, then the output differs in at least 2 bit positions. Now, the expansion function and the mixing permutation, they also have some important properties. So, the mixing permutation have the property that the output of each S box will affect the input of 6 S boxes in the next iteration. That means, if I consider the first S box here, you have 4 output bits coming from here, and if I do a mixing permutation, the mixing permutation is designed in such a way that the output of the mixing permutation followed by the expansion function which I am going to apply in the next iteration ensures that there will be 6 S boxes whose inputs will be differing here. So, the expansion function, namely which 16 bits of the input are replicated, and the mixing permutation which determines the shuffling operation, both of them ensure this important property, namely the output of each S box affect the input of 6 X boxes in the next iteration. And remember that why we are interested in the special properties from the mixing permutation and the S boxes, right. Basically, our goal here is to obtain good avalanche effect, and just to recall what exactly is avalanche effect. The avalanche effect ensures that if you have a keyed permutation F k constructed using a Fistel network or SPN, then you require that the resultant F k should have the property that F k x and F k x dash should differ in significant number of bit positions, even if x and x dash differs only in less number of bits, say even in 1 bit. And we had seen in the last lecture that if you have some special properties from the mixing permutation and from the S boxes, right, we can achieve this avalanche effect. And that is the principle we are following in the S boxes and the mixing permutation and expansion function that we are using in DES. It turns out that 16 rounds which we are using here in the Fistel network is very important, because if we do not use a 16 round Fistel network and use less round Fistel network, then there are easy attacks on the reduced round DES. But if we operate it with full 16 rounds, then the only complaints that we have been reported till now is the short key size complaint, namely 2 to the power 56 complexity brute force can be launched given the current computing speed. Another complaint with the DES is the short block length. So, the block length here is 64 bits, and now you might be wondering that how a short block length can have a consequence on the security of the overall block cipher. So, recall the counter mode of operation of the block cipher or the pseudo random permutation, and we had seen in the CPA security analysis of the counter mode of operation that the security of the CPA mode of counter security of the counter CPA security of the counter mode of operation depends upon with how much probability the random IV that we use in encrypting the challenge plain text gets repeated in any of the queries, encryption oracle queries, and the value of the IV and the probability of the IV getting repeated depends upon the actual block length of the underlying keyed permutation. So, the big L namely is the block size here, and if my block size is small, then the probability of the random IV which is used for encrypting the challenge cipher text getting repeated becomes significantly high. So, these are the two complaints reported with respect to the original construction of the DES. Apart from that, no severe vulnerabilities have been reported till now. So, now let us see how we can go about increasing the size of the key, right. Our goal will be to increase the size of the original DES, and there are two approaches for designing a modified block cipher or a modified DES, where you can operate the modified construction with a larger size key. The first approach will be to make internal modifications to the existing design to handle larger size key, namely you make modifications to the existing key scheduling algorithm, you make modifications to the S boxes, you make modification to the expansion function, mixing permutations and so on. Unfortunately, this approach is not at all recommended, because it has turned out that even a slight modification to the existing DES structure has severe security consequences. So, we cannot afford to make modifications to the internal structure of the DES to ensure that we have a modified DES operating with a larger key size. The second approach which is recommended is to actually incorporate a larger key in a black box fashion without making any internal modifications. For example, let us see how exactly a double encryption will work, and the discussion that we are going to have will be very generic. It is applicable with respect to any block cipher, but for simplicity you can always consider DES in your mind. So, imagine we have a keyed permutation which is a secure and practical block cipher whose key length is n bits, block length is L bits, and output size is L bits. And since it is a practically secure block cipher, the best possible attack is of order 2 to the power n. Now, imagine I compose this existing construction to obtain what we call as a double encryption block cipher, which now operates with a key of size 2 n bits, but a block length of L bits and giving an output of L bits. And the way I designed this double encryption block cipher is basically I parse the key k for the double encryption block cipher as two independent parts k 1 and k 2 each of n bits. I operate first the existing block cipher with the k 1 part with the input x, and I obtain an output y which is of L bits, and that treat that y output again as the input for the second invocation for the existing block cipher with the k 2 part of my double encryption block cipher, right. So, that is the way I am doing a double encryption, and as you can see here I am not making any modification at all in the description or the design of the existing block cipher. The existing block cipher is operated as it is. For instance, if your existing F is DES, right, then what we are basically trying to do here is we are trying to design double DES, where the size of the key will be now 112 bits. The first part will be k 1, the second part will be k 2, and basically what I am doing here is I am just invoking DES twice, and that is what my double DES is considered. So, now we have to analyze or argue is the new double encryption block cipher that we have designed is practically secure or not. That means, is the best possible attack of order 2 to the power 2 n or not. Interestingly, the answer is no, and there is a very interesting attack which we call as meet in the middle attack, where we can show that by launching this meet in the middle attack, adversary can recover the unknown key of the double encryption block cipher with a complexity of order 2 to the power n, which is much less than the 2 to the power 2 n, right. So, imagine that adversary has got several x comma y pair. For simplicity, imagine it has got one x comma y pair, where y is the outcome of the double encryption block cipher with a known input x, but with an unknown key which is a collection of a concatenation of k 1 followed by k 2. And what we are going to show is an attack, namely meet in the middle attack, where an adversary can recover the unknown key with computation of order n times 2 to the power n. The idea here is as follows. Basically, adversary has to do brute force in two opposite directions. In the first direction, what it does is it performs a brute force over all candidate k 1, and there are 2 to the power n candidate k 1. For each candidate k 1, it operates f, the existing construction f, with respect to the known input x, and obtain the intermediate outputs which it calls z, and it stores all those k 1 comma z pairs in a list called L list or left list. That is the first brute force it performs, and what it performs is that it takes the y output which is available with the adversary, and it now performs a reverse brute force, namely it performs a brute force with respect to all candidate k 2, but with respect to the inverse of the function f on the output y, right. Namely, it takes each candidate k 2 and computes the inverse of the output y available to it under that candidate k 2 and obtain the corresponding z, and store this k 2 comma z pairs in a list called R list. So, that is a second brute force it is performing. So, the first brute force it performs its complexity is of order 2 to the power n. The second brute force that it has performed parallelly, its complexity is of order 2 to the power n. And now what adversary has to do is it sorts the left list and right list, right, according to the z values, and once it has the sorted L list and R list according to the z value, what adversary basically has to do is it has to see whether it has a k 1 comma z 1 pair in the L list and a k 2 comma z 2 pair in the R list, such that z 1 equal to z 2 holds. If that is the case, then the candidate k 1 concatenated with the candidate k 2 is the actual candidate k used for the double encryption. Now, what exactly is the idea of this attack? If you see the construction of the double encryption, to do the double encryption from x we go to f k of x, and then from f k of x we would have gone to y, right, namely we would have obtained f k 2 of f k 1 of x. Another way to interpret the same construction is that from y I would have actually performed f k 2 of inverse of the y, and from here the same thing I could have obtained if I would have computed f k of x. So, that is basically adversary is trying to do. Adversary is brute forcing in the forward direction, it is brute forcing in the reverse direction and trying to see whether for some candidate k 1 and for candidate k 2 it reaches the same point or not. And definitely there will be one candidate k 1 and one candidate k 2 where the meeting point will happen. That meeting point basically gives him the candidate k, and to obtain the meeting point adversary basically have to perform a computation of order n to the power 2 n. It has to perform 2 brute forces and then it has to do the sorting and then it has to find out the meeting point, right. So, as you can see, even though we have now constructed a double encryption block cipher with a key of size 2 n bits, and we expect that the best possible attack should be of order 2 to the power 2 n. It turns out that by doing a computation of only order n to the power 2 power n, the adversary can recover the key, and hence increasing the key size by doing a double encryption is not sufficient. So, that leads us to what we call as triple encryption, right. So, again imagine you have an existing secure, practically secure block cipher, and now we are defining a new block cipher based on triple encryption as follows. We have two possible variants here. In the first variant we actually operate the existing secure construction with 3 independent keys of size n bits in bits in this fashion. We first apply the existing construction with respect to the k 1 portion of the key. Whatever output I obtain, I invert it with respect to the k 2 portion. Whatever output I obtain, again I apply the existing construction with respect to the k 3 portion of the key, and that is what going to be the overall output of the triple encryption with respect to the key, namely k 1 concatenated with k 2 concatenated with k 3. That is the first variant. The second variant, which actually is going to operate on with respect to only 2 keys, independent keys of size n bits each, but internally it will invoke 3 invocations of the f. The first invocations will be f k 1, the second invocation will be f inverse of k 2, and again the third invocation will be f k 1. Now, you might be wondering that why the middle invocation in both the variants is f k inverse instead of f k. Well, security wise it is not a concern, because if the existing construction f k is a practically secure strong pseudo random permutation or block cipher, then we can prove that so is f k inverse. So, it does not matter whether the middle invocation is f k 2 or f inverse of k with respect to k 2, both are sufficient as far as security is concerned. The only reason that the middle invocation is an inverse function and not a forward function is to ensure backward compatibility. Namely, if I ensure that the k 1 portion of the key and the k 2 portion of the key and the k 3 portion of the key for the triple encryption block cipher are all same, then basically the triple encryption based block ciphers becomes equivalent to the existing construction. That means, if my existing construction F was DES and my triple encryption based construction is triple DES, then if I have a software implementation of triple DES and I want to get an effect of original DES, then I do not have to do any modification in the software implementation of triple DES. What basically I have to do is I take a key of size 3n bits, where I ensure that the first portion of the key and the second portion of the key and the third portion of the key are all same. If I use this special type of key and use the software implementation of triple DES, I basically end up getting the effect of original DES. So, it is just for backward compatibility that the middle invocation is the inverse function invocation. Now, it turns out as far as the security is concerned of this triple encryption based block cipher, for the variant one, there is a meet in the middle attack of order 2 to the power 2n, and that is why it is not acceptable, because we are operating with a key of size 3n bits and we expect that the best possible attack should be of order 2 to the power 3n, but we can launch a meet in the middle attack whose complexity is of order 2 to the power 2n. So, we are not getting the desired effect. Whereas, for the variant 2, where we are actually using a key of size 2n bits, there is no better attack reported other than brute forcing whose complexity of order 2 to the power 2n, and that is what we desire, right. So, triple DES is basically a variant of DES, where the F is existing F is the DES, and we basically either use variant 1 or variant 2, but preferably variant 2, because there that is where we get the maximum possible security. However, it turns out that even though by using triple DES we actually get rid of the small key size complaint that was there with respect to the original DES, the complaint with respect to the small block length still remains even in triple DES, because in the triple DES the block length remains as it is, as was the case for the original F. So, we are not increasing the block length. Moreover, to actually get more security, the overall speed of the triple DES is now slow, because internally it requires 3 invocations of DES, right. So, this is the summary of the drawbacks of DES, namely small block length and slow speed, and to get rid of these 2 limitations, the solution will be to replace DES and triple DES and come up with a new practical instantiation of block cipher. So, motivated by that, in 1997 NIST announced a worldwide competition, first of its kind, to come up with a replacement of DES, and after rigorous analysis for 3 years, right, where some of the best cryptographers in the planet submitted their proposals, each proposal was rigorously analyzed in the public domain. After 3 years of rigorous analysis, 5 finalists were selected: Rindahl, Serpent, Two-Fish, RC6, Mars, and it turns out that among these 5 finalists, in none of these 5 finalists, any serious vulnerabilities were reported, right. So, it is fine, you can use any of these 5 finalists as a replacement of DES, but a preference was given for the proposal submitted by the Belgian cryptographers Vincent Reijmen and Joe Demen, right, and it was selected as the winner due to efficiency, hardware, performance, flexibility, etc. And the proposal submitted by this Belgian cryptographers actually becomes AES, eventually becomes the advanced encryption standard, namely the replacement of DES, right. So, I would like to stress here that why we should believe that AES is indeed a secure block cipher, because it came out as a result of an open worldwide competition, where actually the submissions came from some of the best cryptographers in the planet, right. So, this actually supports the argument given by the Kirchhoff principle, based on the Kirchhoff principle, where we actually argue that you should not try to achieve security based on obscurity by keeping the description of the design secret. You should always use a encryption process whose design is available in the public domain and which has gone through rigorous security analysis and so on. And AES is one of those cryptographic algorithms, which has gone through 3 years of rigorous security analysis and no security breach have been reported. So, we should feel more comfortable in using schemes like AES, which have come out of worldwide competitions. So, what we will do now is we will see an overview of AES. So, its block length is 128 bits, key length is, it supports basically 3 versions of key. It has support for 128 bit key size, 192 bit key size and 256 bit key size. And architecture wise, unlike DES, which was a combination of SPN and Fistel network, AES is just an R round SPN, where the number of rounds, namely the value of R, depends upon the key size. If you are operating with 128 bit key size, then the number of rounds is 10. If you are operating with 192 bit key size, the number of rounds is 12. If you are operating with 256 bit key size, the number of rounds is 14. And since it is an SPN, basically you will be doing each R iterations of key mixing, followed by substitution, followed by permutation, and then after R iteration you will be doing a final key mixing. So, basically what AES does is it maintains a 4 cross 4 array of bytes, which is also called as the state, and each iteration or in each round the state gets modified. The initial array or the initial state is the 128 bit block input for the AES, and the block input X is passed as a collection of 16 bytes. So, that is why this 4 cross 4 array of bytes. So, in each iteration we basically do 4 stages. The first stage is the add round key, which is equivalent to the key mixing step, where a 128 bit sub key derived from the master key is XORed with the current state. This is followed by the substitution stage, which is also called as the sub byte states, where each byte in the current lookup table or in the current state is replaced by another byte according to a single fixed bijection. So, this is again another difference with respect to DES. In DES we had 8 different publicly known S boxes, but in AES we have only a single S box, which is applied across all the iteration in all the stages, right. So, once we do the key mixing, we do the sub bytes, namely the substitution stage. Then in stage 3 we actually perform 2 operations. The stage 3 we basically do the shifting of the rows, namely what we do is that bytes in each of the rows are left shifted in a cyclic fashion. That means the shift happens in this way. So, the way order of the shift is determined is as follows. Basically we do no shifting in the first row. For the second row, the contents get shifted in a cyclic fashion by 1 byte position. For the third row, the contents get shifted in a cyclic fashion by 2 byte position, and in the fourth row the bytes contents get shifted by 3 positions in the cyclic fashion. So, that is publicly known, and once we have done the shifting of the row bytes, we do actually a mixing of the columns, where an invertible linear transformation is applied to the 4 bytes which are now available in the individual columns, right. The property of this linear transformation is that it ensures that if the 4 bytes taken together, right, differ in b byte positions, that means I have 2 inputs, where if I have an input x and if I have an input x dash, and with respect to x if I take the 4 bytes in the one column, and if with respect to x dash if I take the 4 bytes in one column, and if the columns and the bytes in the individual columns for x and x dash differ in b byte positions, where b is greater than 0, then the output of this transformation for x and x dash will now result in a new column which will differ in 5 minus b byte positions. And on a very high level, this shifting of the rows and the mixing of the columns gives you the effect of the mixing permutation of an SPN, right. So, I am not going into the internal details of how what exactly is this linear transformation, how exactly it operates, why these rows are shifted in a left cyclic fashion and so on. Those details you can find out from any references which are cited in the book by Katz-Lindell. What I can say is that the security, as far as the security of AES is concerned, no practical attack has been reported ever since its design, other than the brute force attack over the key space, and that makes AES a very good candidate for instantiating pseudo random permutations in any cryptographic constructions based on pseudo random permutation. So, that brings me to the end of this lecture. Just to summarize, in this lecture we had seen the overview of two of the highly used and highly popular block ciphers, namely DES and AES. And again I would like to stress that they are not provably secure, because there are no mathematical proof which shows that these constructions satisfies the definition, indistinguishability definition of pseudo random permutations. They just provide you heuristic security, in the sense that ever since their design, no practical attacks have been reported other than the brute force attack on the key space. So, that is why we believe that they indeed behave like, or they are they give you a good instantiation or good replacement of pseudo random permutations. Whereas, the provably secure constructions based on one way functions, they are mathematically secure, they satisfies the definition of indistinguishability based definition. The downside is that they cannot be used practically, because the running time is enormous compared to the practical instantiations like DES and AES. Thank you.